Hello, Void and all who inhabit it. It's me, another newly minted Lauren and Cameron fan account. Fan accounts for non celebrities, even the ones for real celebrities, are actually mad weird, but you get the gist. I stayed up until 4 a.m. last night to watch Love is Blind, and I have some thoughts. I'm not gonna really set up the show and the couples, cause time, girl. But lightning fast, Love is Blind is a romance reality show where people signed up to participate in a 6-week experiment that started with speed dating people they literally could not see and could only meet in person once they were engaged. The goal is the same as pretty much every romance reality show: get married in the end. I'm gonna link the wiki if you haven't seen it and or don't have a Netflix password but want more details. I don't want to focus on the couple specifically or even review that aspect, though I do have to say, White Boyfriend season has never had publicity as good as one Mr. Cameron Reed Hamilton. He heard Harry was going to ditch the royal family and knew he had to step it up for Team Swirl, and I'm here for it. Okay, actually, I do want to talk briefly about the diversity in this show. It's the low-hanging fruit of critique, so to speak, but the fact that only 3 non-white people made it through, and 2 of them were white, or at least white-passing Latin, is an obvious issue. Also, everyone is able-bodied, conventionally attractive, at least the women, slim/fit, and in their late 20s to early 30s. The age thing you could argue is a consequence of who would want to experiment, but I watched 90 Day Fiancé. People in their 40s and 50s is out here fucking and carrying on as well. With regards to race, however, the show exacerbated that issue by having the interracialness of Lauren and Cameron's relationship be a focus multiple times, but rarely talked about differing cultures with Giannina and Damien or Mark and Jessica. Gigi, as a lot of people affectionately call her, has a brief part where she talks about how she learned English, and later talks about how her family argues being different than what Damien is used to, but that's really it. Which, I mean, Gigi came to win an Emmy, honey. She knew what line she wanted to spit. But it is interesting that they didn't dig deeper into the differences in her and Damien's personality beyond, like, painting her as volatile. You decide what concerns you about your relationship, but the producers decide what to ask you and what to interview you about, you feel me? They also could have done more with Mark and Jessica, honestly, since we're supposed to buy it that their age difference and not Jessica's racism, physical preferences, was what affected their relationship. Which, sidebar, I definitely think Barnett's charm lured all 3 of the women that he was choosing between into thinking that their connection was maybe deeper than it initially was. But if his appearance was flipped with Mark's and everything else was the same, Messica wouldn't have been out here trying to break up his relationship every single episode. We have to make that very clear. Anyway, Mark was always talking about his mom, which, yeah, that's uncomfortable, and I don't really blame Jessica for getting irked about that at one point, but they could have swung that to look deeper. It's reality TV, so it's as shallow as a kiddie pool, but Lauren was out here educating the people, talking about I can still be about black people and have a non-black partner. So the show could have tried to have the range, but they just didn't want to, at least not for everyone. That's my mini soapbox on that. What I wanted to focus more on, though, is the formula of shows structured like this. Love is Blind flips some expectations of romance reality shows, but still feeds into the main formula of it. I know I said I wasn't going to review the couples, and I'm still not, but a moment on Jessica. Her behavior was really gross, for lack of a better word, and more interestingly, it wasn't portrayed in a sympathetic way. I think in the pods, maybe she was seen as more sympathetic, but once they were all released into the semi-wild and she started jumping through hoops to avoid Mark while also trying to manipulate Barnett into leaving Amber, she just looked gross, is really the best word I can come up with. And I say gross over a word like desperate because she was being conniving, and not convincingly so, but thought she was lying successfully. It was a mess. Anyway, what was interesting about that to me is that women like Jessica and tactics like that are usually portrayed positively. Edits and cuts could have been made to show Amber more sloppily, especially with music choices. This show loves some loud-ass music. But we're presented a lot of Jessica's attempted manipulation and Amber's quote-unquote faults or traits that could be used to pit her as a bad option really neutrally and that was very refreshing. It's one thing to be irked about somebody on a reality TV show. It's another thing for the show to want you to actually like them and for that to be obvious in the editing. I think beyond the first 2 episodes being blatant on who was going to make it out of the pods based on screen time, they did a pretty decent job being neutral with the messy triangle, which I loved because I could watch while being deeply rooted in my own opinion with very little disruption. But where this show falls flat and becomes more formulaic is in the isolation aspects of it. A lot of romance reality shows have some chunk where one or both of the partners are completely dependent on each other for social interaction. Love is Blind did have the other couples meet up and hang out while in Mexico, and that was cute or whatever. But like when they in the pods, it's just them. And then to stay in Mexico for the most part, it's just them. And then they move in together and finally get contact with the outside world, but it's still after so much isolation. And alcohol. Good Lord, I pray for their livers. There was so much alcohol. And this is all done on purpose, right? Because that's how you get drama and intrigue, by limiting these people's social interactions and filling them with liquor. But shows like Love is Blind or Married at First Sight have this ethos of the situation being an experiment, not just entertainment, with the intended outcome being a decision that changes your life forever. While simultaneously, these shows are inherently designed to fail. Like the couples are placed in so much stress and unreality. Is that a word? Unreality? They don't get a strong chance to learn how the person that they're partnered with will act in real life. And that's often a point of drama as well. We keep watching though. Well, I mean, I skipped around a lot. Like, I might have watched a total of 6 minutes of Kelly and Kenny's storyline, but I was there, screaming into my pillow, rooting for Lauren and Amber. I was invested even as the concept for this commentary was brewing. I wouldn't say I'm someone who likes reality TV, though I did watch Flavor of Love as a young warthog. But since starting 90 Day Fiancé, which is a whole different type of dumpster fire, I find myself watching more. Social media definitely plays into this. I saw people tweeting about Lauren and Cameron's wedding, and I was like, who is this goddess? I must learn more. Then, 8 hours later, there I was, wired up at 4 a.m. But reality TV has been around for, 30 years now? There's tons of studies out there about how this shit is all terrible for us, namely in how reality TV constitutes what is quote-unquote real. I was more interested in finding out why we watch it anyway. Dana Cloud, a communications professor, took a look at the appeal of reality shows after season 11 of The Bachelor, where the Bachelor in question's decision to not choose anyone to partner with sent viewers into a tizzy. Professor Cloud followed up with coining the phenomenon of the irony bribe. The irony bribe, she says, wins viewers to participation in an ideological discourse by tempting them not only with mass social and political fantasy, but also with the possibility of protection against rampant archaic desires by the reflective rejection of the fantasy. She goes on to describe irony as allowing the ironist to avoid the traumatic encounter by imagining that she is somehow outside of the fantasy and its spectacular failure to deliver on its promises. We're drawn to watch these dumpster fires because we believe ourselves removed from them, even as we spend time focused on them. I can put energy into watching these people and just as easily turn around to critique them and fast forward through bits I don't care for because it's framed as real but not real life that's mine to be a part of only as a spectator. Producers' entire purpose behind the scenes is to find ways to draw on this balance between, as Cloud names it, investment and detachment. 10 years ago, the season 11 Bachelor's Choice disrupted that balance by presenting an unfamiliar outcome. He cracked the fantasy. Now we have shows where the viewers look forward to people not partnering in the end. Shows' entire concepts are molded around the longevity of the relationship, on the potential to crack the fantasy instead of the initial choice to pursue the fantasy, as we see with traditional formats like The Bachelor or Flavor of Love. I would be interested to see how the fantasy and buying into it or wanting it to shatter has been impacted by social media. Like, if you're trying to make a career as a personality, it takes less produced exposure. Tiffany Pollard, aka New York, had to get a spin-off show. The girls now can just eat off Instagram.
But how has the Bribe changed? What new fantasies are we subscribing to when we watch this stuff? And what's more satisfying? Success or failure?
If you made it to the end, Thank you for making it to the end. Also, if you know, can you please tell me why did the couples have to pay for their wedding stuff in Love is Blind? You telling me Netflix can fly them around Cancun but can't pay for Kleinfeld's bridal? Who is in charge of the budget? Anyway, I didn't watch no movies yet, like I said I would in the last episode, but I'm gonna try, at least for myself. Melina Pendulum did a really good review of Birds of Prey that will have to hold me over in the meantime. I'm also going to be traveling again, so the next few videos will be polar bear poochie cold whenever they get uploaded. Until then, stay safe out there. I'll catch you in the next echo chamber.